there, I'm Sandy Reese, nonprofit fundraising coach and trainer, and I am really glad that you're here. I'm guessing that you found this site because you got one of these. You probably picked this up at the conference. It's my 6 tips to double your fundraising income, and I want to talk to you and give you some more examples and go a little deeper into some of these. If you're like most people, what you really need is to raise way more money so that you can do more good in the world. You're trying to take your community no-kill, eliminate euthanasia. You're trying to implement a TNR program. You're doing something that really matters. And the truth is, no matter how big your vision is, if you don't have the funding to support it, you're never going to fulfill that vision. So we've got to find a way to help you raise more money. That's the whole point of this. This is to get you thinking and let me dig in with you and give you some really good tips and some additional ideas on some things that you can do to get started today. Does that sound good? Okay, grab a pen. You're going to want to take some notes as we go. Okay, number 1 is all about the donor. Focus on the donor, not the money. Way too many nonprofits spend a lot of time really focused on the gift. It's like those, the eyes in the painting where you watch the you watch the thing wherever it happens to go. That's not going to serve you really well. And if what you're doing is sending out a couple of asks a year, or you're asking people to support your event, or you're asking people to donate to a special medical case, and you're not thanking people or really building the relationships, and that's what you're doing. You're all about the money. When you're all about the donor, you do things that build trust and build relationship and help the donor feel really good about their decision to give. What makes a donor feel really, really good? It's when they hear the stories of the lives that you're saving. That's what gets them right here, right in the heart, right in the gut. That's when they can feel it, and that's when they get excited. And listen, here's the secret. When people feel really good about their decision to give to you, they're way more likely to give again. So it's pretty simple. You start with a great thank you letter, you follow it up with other great information, you help those people feel really good, you help them feel like they're on your team, and they will give again. It's really that simple. So why aren't more organizations doing it? I have no idea. But listen, if you want to raise more money, if you want to double your fundraising revenue, try loving on your donors and see what happens. When I say love on your donors, I mean communicate with them regularly, tell them a great story, give them the inside scoop on how you're changing lives and how you're saving lives, and that'll light them up inside. Your job is to help that donor feel like the hero that they are. Because the truth is, you can't fund your organization by yourself. Maybe you have up until this point, but if you've got a really big vision, you've got a big place you're trying to get to, you can't do it yourself. You need their support, you need their help. So make them the hero. That's what they are. When they write you a check and they're helping you, they're coming alongside you to help make sure that the animals are getting fed and that the vet bills are getting paid, those people are heroes. So treat them that way. Think about them that way. Give them some extra love and watch what happens. I have a client who does this really, really well. He's very focused on the person that he's talking to and not their money. In fact, there have been times when he's been talking to donors and he will even say to them, I don't even want to talk about money. I want to talk about you and what matters to you. Tell me what's important in your life. And he don't even want to talk about money. And he'll tell them that up front. We're not talking about money today. Donors love that because it's so refreshing. It's so new. Nobody else does that. And then when they catch the excitement and the fire of his dream, of course they want to help. Of course they want to pull their checkbook out and make a donation. And you can do that too. You have to get out of that, I got to bring in money kind of mode. And you have to really think about, this person is they're an individual. They're not just a donor. They're not just a number. They're somebody who can help me, not only now, but next week, next month, next year, next decade. This person could be around for a really long time and help me reach my goals with this organization. So think about long-term value, not how much cash can I get right now from this donation. That one shift that can cause all kinds of really amazing things to happen. That can cause you to start thinking about your donors differently, relating to them differently, and all kinds of great things can happen. So focus on the donor, not the money. Yeah, the money's important, but don't let that be the number one thing. Okay, number 2 on the card is use a 3-to-1 share to ask ratio. So let me ask you, have you ever had a friend that the only time you heard from them was when they wanted something? Yeah, I think we all know somebody like that. You look at the caller ID and you're like, nope, not talking to that person right now. Well, here's some really bad news. You may be showing up that way to your donors. If you send them a couple of emails, asking for money, asking for support, join our monthly giving program, help us with this medical case. If you send things through the mail that all have an ask in them, you're essentially showing up with your hand out to that person every time you have an interaction. Now think about that for a minute. If you're the donor and the only time the charity shows up is when they want something, how many times can they do that before you're like, I'm tired of this, I'm over it? Yeah. So what I want you to do is use what I call a 3-to-1 share to ask ratio. And here's what that looks like. Share, 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 ask. What that means is you're going to be giving information, telling stories, making the donor feel really good, and then asking. Think about how that can change things. And the sharing needs to be really donor focused, really move them, touch their heart, give them a good story. Talk to them about what you're doing that is making a difference in the world. And I know you are. I know you're doing things where you're saving animals that otherwise nobody would jump in and save. I know you're doing amazing things. So share. The share can be a newsletter, it can be an e-newsletter, it can be an e-blast, it can be a really well done thank you letter, it can be a phone call, it can be social media, it can be a lot of things, but you need to focus on give them good stuff, give them good stuff, give them good stuff, and then ask. Most nonprofits have this backwards. They're doing ask, 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 share. And that's why they see donor fatigue. That's why they see a drop in their retention rates. That's why they are just not seeing the revenue that they want. So if you implement this one change, this can be a game changer for you. Find a way to share. Now these shares, listen, this has got to be good stuff. When you're sharing, it's got to be about the heart. It's got to be things that are going to make the donor feel good, warm their heart, make them the hero, show them how their gift is making a difference, how you've put it to work, how it's saving lives right away. That's when things get really interesting. That's when this really starts to work. So don't be the person who only shows up with your hand out. Give the donor something really good. Help them feel like they've just done the most amazing thing in the whole world, because the truth is that's what they've done. Okay, I want to give you another exercise before we leave this, because a lot of times I teach people this and they go, sharing, yeah, we're doing that. We're sending out a newsletter. We've got the e-blast going on. And I think what they're still missing is it's still very inwardly focused. Okay? So there's a difference between what matters to you and what matters to your donor. Okay? Everything that you share needs to be important and relevant to your donor, not to you. So I'll invite you to try an exercise. You can take a piece of paper, and on that piece of paper you can draw a line down the middle, and then you can write donor and me. And then I want you to think about the story that you want to share, and I want you to write down how it's interesting and relevant to the donor, and what about it is interesting and relevant and meaningful to you. This is going to cause you to think a little bit. You got to put yourself in the donor's shoes and think about, okay, if I'm the donor, what matters to me? So you got to really think about this. It's not always what matters to you. So if you find that what you write is like this, and it's all interesting to you, you got to stop that. You got to have way more of what's interesting to the donor. That's when your newsletter is going to work. So you've got to stop and think about this. You cannot put newsletters together at the last minute. You can't be slapping this stuff together just to go check the block, we're done, newsletter's out. You need to stop and think about this stuff and make sure that it is relevant and interesting to the donor, meaningful to them, not just to you. Okay? See how this works? Okay, number 3 on our postcard is to send a great newsletter or none at all. Y'all, come on. Most newsletters that nonprofits send out are crap. And it doesn't matter if it's email or if it's a printed newsletter. The ones that I see are all about the organization. So it's a whole lot of this. It's a whole lot of me, 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 me. I had a newsletter show up in my mailbox about a week ago. It was one of the worst newsletters I've ever seen. And I'm not sure I kept it. I'm kind of wishing that I did because I would love to share it with people. Here's what was in it. On the front page was, here's what we've been doing this year. We started this program, and we wrapped up this program, and we did this, and we did that. And I got halfway through it and went, how is any of this interesting to me? It was so self-centered. It was all me, 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 me. Then I open it up, and it's all, here's about our board, and here's about the grant money we've given out, and here's what's going on. And it was more me, 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 me. I was bored reading this newsletter. It was awful. So I want you to really get that you can't do newsletters like that and expect to engage people. It just doesn't work that way. You've got to make sure that you're adding things that matter to the donor. What's interesting? What's relevant? What's meaningful? Where's the story? Oh my gosh, in this newsletter, there was no story. I tell people all the time, lead with a story. Connect with the heart. That's when you're going to get people. There was no story, none, zilch, zero in this newsletter. It was boring. It was all text. There were no pictures. This was one that came via snail mail. There were no pictures, no graphics, nothing to break up the text. It was awful. It was the worst newsletter I've seen in a really long time. If that's the way you're going to do a newsletter, don't bother. It doesn't get you anything. It's a total waste. Even if you're doing it by email, and a lot of people think we're going to do newsletters by email so we can save a lot of money. That's the wrong reason to do an email newsletter. You do an email newsletter because that's the way your donors want to receive it, not because it's cheaper or easier for you. You give people the information in the format that they want it, because really, it's about making it easy for your donor, not for you. Fundraising is not about your convenience. It's not about what's easy for you. It's about what's easy for the donor to understand. If they want an email newsletter, you better do an email newsletter. If they want it print, you better do it in print. It doesn't matter what you think or what your budget calls for. Do it the way that they want it, okay? If you can't do a great newsletter, don't bother. If your newsletter doesn't cause your donor to feel good about supporting you, don't bother. There's no point. So do a great newsletter. Send them something that lets them know how they made a difference and how they're the hero. That's what's really important. There's a research study done about 15 years ago by a woman named Penelope Burke, and she surveyed about 100,000 donors, and she asked them a lot of questions that were really important, but one in particular that to me is very interesting, and that is, what would cause you to want to give again to an organization? So if you make a donation to a nonprofit, what's going to cause you to make another gift? Well, 85%. Let me write that down for you. 85% of them said they would either definitely or most likely give again if a couple of conditions were met. One, they were thanked in a prompt way with, if they got a thank you letter really quickly that let them know that the organization got their gift. And number two, if they received meaningful information about how their gift was being used. Okay? That's where that whole share, share, share thing comes into play. If what donors want to know is, number one, did you get my check? Number two, did you appreciate it? Number three, are you using the money the way you said you would? Are you getting the results that you said you wanted to get? That's what we're interested in. That's what we have to really know about. That's what you've got to share and give back to your donors. Okay, let's go on to number 4. Number 4 is about making the ask tangible. So here's another place where I see a lot of organizations make a huge mistake, and that is they say, Just give us money. Whatever you feel like giving, whatever you feel led to give. If you're doing that, you're making it really hard for the donor because they don't know what you need. They don't know how much to give. And number two, it's so vague that you're going to get vague results. When you have a vague request, you get vague results. So what I want you to do is ask for something very clear and specific and make it tangible. Here's what that looks like. Your gift of $25 will help us feed and house a dog for a week. Your gift of $35 will allow us to do a spay or a neuter surgery. So you see how that works? It's something very clear. Now here's the catch. It has to be real and it has to be accurate. So you have to know your numbers well enough to go divide it out and see how much did we spend on spay neuter surgeries and how many did we do. You divide it out and see what you get. Now you may have to crunch some numbers in 2 or 3 different ways to figure out which one is going to really work for you. And they're different for everybody, so it's not like it's $25 to feed and house a dog for a week for everybody. Your cost might be $12.50, or it might be $35, or it might be something else. So go have a look at your numbers. Look and see what your expenses have been for the year, and how many animals you've taken care of for the year, and divide it out. It's really pretty simple. Now I know that some of you are saying, oh, that sounds like math. Yeah, it is, and I didn't realize when I started working in fundraising that there was going to be math involved, and I had to learn how to crunch some of those numbers. But trust me on this one, this is really important. You need to learn how to do this. Because when you can tell somebody what it costs you to save a life, and when it's a really meaningful number, people will be all over it trying to help you. So you really got to do this. Make your ask very tangible. Don't ask for anything vague. And none of this, give to our annual fund. I hate those. Here's the thing, as a donor, I don't care about your annual fund. What I care about are the lives that you're saving. I want to know about the animals. I want to know what you're doing that's making a difference. I don't care about your need to keep your budget funded. That's your problem. And that's how donors see it. So don't ask your donor to fund something that they don't care about, because they're not going to do it. So hopefully you really get that one. You can look around at some other organizations, watch Best Friends, watch the ASPCA, watch Humane Society of the United States. Watch what they're asking people to fund. And by the way, you can go make a small gift to any of those organizations and you'll be on the receiving list or on the receiving end of their appeals, and you'll get to see what they're doing. It's a really, a very cheap way to get a lot of education. You know, you can give them a $5 gift, a $10 gift, a $25 gift, and you then can learn what they're doing. And trust me, they all have experts that are guiding them in how to put those appeals out there. Okay, number 5, thank donors well. This is part of the statistic that I shared with you a little earlier, that 85% of people will either definitely or most likely give again if they're thanked well and if they receive meaningful information. How do you thank a donor well? Well, it comes with a couple of criteria. Number 1, it's got to be prompt. So if they give online, there needs to be an immediate receipt that goes out, and the receipt needs to have some thank you language in it. If they give with a check that comes into your office, you need to be getting a thank you letter back out in the mail within 48 hours. That's 2 days. 2 days to get that thank you letter back in the mail. Don't do any of this, and I've seen groups do it where they're like, well, we'll just wait until we have enough to run a batch. No. That is all about your organization. That is not respectful of your donor. You've got to be respectful. You've got to give the donor what they want. So prompt, that's the first thing. Sincere. Your thank you letter needs to warm the donor's heart if they read it. The problem is that most people slap their thank you letters together and they're boring. They're crap. They sound like this. On behalf of the staff and board of the blah 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 organization, please accept our deepest gratitude for... See how boring that is? Like, give it some life. Here's what I suggest. I want you to imagine that you're sitting at your kitchen table and your donor is across the table, and they've just written you a check for whatever they've given. What would you say to them face to face? You wouldn't say to them face to face, on behalf of the staff and board, blah, blah, blah. No. What would you say to them face to face? Write that down, and that's what you need to put in your thank you letter. That's what's going to warm somebody's heart. That's what they're going to respond to. That's going to make them feel really good about their decision to give, and that's what this is all about. Again, if you're giving to some other organizations, you can see what their thank you letters look like, and that's a great way to learn. So if you're not already giving to some other groups, you need to go do that. Okay, number 6 on our list is ask for help. Now this one seems really silly, but here again, this is a place where I've seen a lot of groups make a huge mistake, and that is they are not asking for the support that they need. This can easily double your fundraising if you just ask. If you're kind of waiting on people to give and you're thinking, oh, I don't want to bother them. We already asked them once this year. I don't want to bother them. Your head is in the wrong place. I mean, think about this for a minute. When you have the right donors to your organization, they care about your success. Probably not quite as much as you, but a whole lot. They want to see you succeed. They want to participate in your success. They want to be asked when you have the right donors. When you don't have the right donors, yeah, it's annoying to them when you ask, but you can ask more than once a year and it's okay. You can ask 2 or 3 or 4, maybe even 5 or 6 times a year if you do it right, and it's okay. So I got this letter one time from this organization, and first of all, it looked terrible. It was all text on the page, and I hate that. Because honestly, I'm a busy person. I don't have time to read it. I'm not going to. And I think most people are like me. I think they're all very busy and they're not going to take a lot of time to read your letter. So I was kind of reading down through it and I couldn't figure out if it was a thank you letter, an annual report, an ask for money, or something else. Because it started out like, thank you for your support. You've been such a great donor. We really appreciate it. Here's what we've accomplished during the year. We're going to continue to need your support, so please give. I'm like, I don't know what this is. So it's very vague. Vague activities get vague results. So if you want good, clear, wonderful, shout it from the rooftop kind of results, you've got to be clear and make it super easy for people to give. Okay, hopefully you're getting that. It's really important that you do that. So ask for help. If you need money for a special case, you got some vet bills, ask for it. You can ask on Facebook, you can ask an email, you can pick up the phone and call donors. I've seen all of those work. You can send letters, you can ask in a newsletter. I've seen those work. So there's a lot of ways you can do this, just do it. Now, the thing that I would suggest to you is plan it out. Especially when you think about this, you need to be sharing 3 times for every time you ask. Just get a calendar out, plan out what you're going to do at least for the next 6 months, and make sure you've got 3 shares for every time that you're asking. And then if you do that, you're going to be just fine. I mean, just imagine if you did share in August, share in September, share in October, you could ask in November. Now, honestly, I would probably ask a little bit more often than that. So you might want to, squeeze those shares up a little bit, but plan it out, and then you're not shooting from the hip. Honestly, I've never seen anybody raise a lot of money when they were shooting from the hip. Just get it in writing. Now, these are 6 really simple tips, but they can make a huge difference. And this is the kind of stuff that we teach in ARF Club. ARF Club is a very unique training coaching program where we show small animal rescue groups how to raise all the money they need so they can fully fund their budget. And when that happens, they can save more lives. My theory is if I could show most of the rescue groups in this country how to raise more money and double the number of animals they're rescuing and saving, we could probably come really close to no kill in dozens of communities. I think it's the rescue groups who have the power to do this, and the only thing holding you back is you don't know how to raise enough of this. I can teach you. In ARF Club, I'll teach you how to lay out a fundraising plan so that you get all of this covered. I'll teach you how to tell a very compelling message so that you're spending more time over here in this column. I'll teach you how to get grants, how to do events. I'll teach you how to get your board engaged and involved. You'll just be amazed at all the things that I'll be able to teach you. You're going to get samples, templates, checklists. I'm going to give you thank you letters you can use. I'm going to tell you which foundations to go after. I'm going to give you a ton of information. There's things that are done for you. All you have to do is drop your logo in and they're ready to use. I've got social media calendars. There's elevator speech formula. There's so much in there. It's insane. It's everything you need to really master fundraising once and for all so that you never have to worry about how you're going to pay for everything again. Get all the details on ARF Club at arfclub.com. It's pretty simple. It's very, very affordably priced. It's $35 a month, and you can invite others from your organization to join for the same membership. So if you sign up, you can also pull in your development committee chair or your head volunteer, whoever you want to pull in. We have some organizations that have 3 or 4 people all enjoying the same membership. Go to arfclub.com. You'll get all the details there, and I look forward to seeing you inside the club for more great stuff just like this. This is Sandy Reese. Have a great day.